What's up, you guys? This is Devin with Century Effects Studios, back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about a conversation I pretty much had with Vanessa Joy in her comment section of her last video. But I think her videos are great, and I really appreciate the fact that she even comments back. I know it's, especially when you get to a big point on YouTube, when you got like 100,000 subscribers, it's hard to get to everybody, and it's hard to commit to answering everybody's questions. But in my opinion, what's the point of YouTube if I can't at least get on some questions or either talk to some stars or some people I look up to, like Vanessa Joy? So basically, we were having a talk about weddings. Her whole video was about weddings and things that happen around wedding times, things that can go wrong and stuff like that. So for those of you who don't know about photographers in general, photographers, especially pros go through these things all the time. I cannot stress to you how many times people have gone through, or pro photographers have gone through, and the people that they work for have gone through some kind of stressful or dramatic scene. For example, Vanessa Joy was talking about she was going to a park to take pictures, or some kind of site to take pictures of a bride, groom, and a party probably. And she was going to a place where she had got the permits. She was literally scheduled, reserved to be there. You know, her people, her assistant, whatever, whoever had them reserved for that spot where somebody else was at. Now, somebody else was there with their own bridal party or whatever. Vanessa comes and she's like, hey, well, you know, or I guess she was there first, if I'm mistaken, and then they come and they find out, hey, well, we want to be here, but, you know, do you have permits and all this other stuff? All these things can get very contentious. I would advise everybody to look over her story, because these are things that photographers deal with all the time. That's why contracts are important. That's why all these things that you say shouldn't just be said, but written verbatim, and then constant contact with the venue, constant contact with whoever your contact is, and writing their name down. Trust me, I've been through quite a few permit fiascos. But today I am going to actually get into another story that doesn't really involve permits, but it's definitely on the wedding scale of pretty dramatic incidents. In my story, I am the wedding videographer. I am actually filling in for somebody else, and this is the first thing that you can imagine will go wrong, is you filling in for somebody else and the communication between you and that person is not 100%. I was under the impression that we were under a 100% deal kind of contract. Hey man, I need you to show up, Devin. I need you to film this wedding. I need you to have 2 camera angles. Do you have 2 cameras? Do you have 2 tripods, or a tripod and a gimbal, whatever? Can you do this for me? I told him yes. He told me the price. And one bigger caveat is that this is actually a wedding in another state. It's not far necessarily from where I am in my state, but it's still going to another state. So traveling over, you know, an hour and 30 minutes just to get to this wedding site. So I have to be prepared, be there, have the batteries. Trust me, I have anxiety about being prepared and going extremely far distances. I've had my fill with that. But if anything, I just knew that me and the guy that contracted me were on the same page, and we obviously weren't. He wasn't on the same page with the bride. And that's the worst, because we all know in the wedding it's about the groom, but it's really about the bride. It's all about the bride and her ideals. She pretty much always makes the plans for the wedding. She has all the ideas. She has the idealism for the wedding. So I'm getting ready, and I'm heading up to where I need to be. It's an hour and 30-minute drive. I am en route. By the time I get there, based on the speed and where I'm going, what the GPS says, I should be there almost an hour and 45 minutes earlier than the start time of the wedding. So I should be there an hour and 45 minutes earlier than the wedding starts. And then on top of that, because the wedding, if you know weddings don't last long in the church. It's all about really the reception and anything else that they ask you to do. But the wedding shots are probably the most prestigious, but they don't last long. But if you understand, I am almost 2 hours early. Let alone, can I get in the church 2 hours early? I don't know. But I just want to be there because I want to introduce myself. I was not able to go to the wedding practice or the rehearsal because the guy had already went to the rehearsal. All right, so I'm about 20 minutes away from the church. I get a phone call from the bride. And I know it's the bride because the bride phone number is what he told me it was. And in his invoice, he had like contractual obligations, everything laid out. So I already knew who was going to call me. I knew when they were going to call me. I pulled over to the side and I answered the phone. And she says, hey, is this my videographer for my wedding? And see, and that's the first telltale sign that things weren't going to be going correctly, even if I was almost 2 hours early. So I'm sitting there like, okay, she doesn't know my name. The guy didn't tell her my name. He didn't tell her what. It was a whole bunch of stuff he didn't tell her. If he didn't tell her my name, I know he left out a lot of information. So I'm still going, still traveling. I told her everything's gonna be fine. I'm on my way, 20 minutes out. So I get to the church, or what I thought to be the church. I follow the directions and everything like that, and I go to. I think to myself, I say, hey, well, nobody's here. Maybe I'm super early. I get to the door, and a lady comes from the door. She says, hey, what are you here for? I say, I'm here to photograph a wedding. The name of the church matched. Everything matched. The address matched and everything. She says, oh, well, you have this mixed up. There's an actual church that's 5 minutes down the road. I think maybe 5 to 10 minutes down the road, depending on which route you take. And it has the same exact name. It just has a different address. I was like, oh, thank you. Now, mind you, I'm still about 2 hours out, like 2 hours early. So I get to the church, the correct church at the time. And everybody's kind of looking at me when I walk in the door with all my equipment. Now, mind you, there's a few people there, but one redeeming factor is since I got there about an hour and 45 minutes early, because that 10-minute, 15-minute drive, making sure I was in the right spot, that took a little bit of time. But since I was already a little bit not as early as I thought, there were some people already there, and the pastor of the church comes and addresses me when I come through the door immediately, and he says, well, he see me put my tripod up, but as far as when I first got there, because I'm rushing, like I'm trying to like at that 1:30, at that 1 hour and 30 minute early mark, I'm trying to meet whoever I can meet to assure the bride that she doesn't have anything to worry about her wedding being filmed. I'm here. Hey, I need somebody to go tell somebody that I'm here. Do you know who the bride is? Do you know how to get to her? Do you have access to her? Where her bridemaids at? Hey, that's what I'm trying to do. Once I get my tripods leveled and steady, because people are starting to come in, I don't want to cause too much of a ruckus asking people questions when I can get prepared. And I know that she got about 30 minutes to figure out whether I'm here or not, to an hour, depending on what she's doing. All right, so once I get in there, the pastor then comes up to me after I level my tripods off and do all this little stuff, set my cameras up. He comes up to me and says, hey, sir, I just wanted to let you know that there's no way you are going to be able to set your camera up right there. And I said, I said, how you doing, pastor? So on and so forth. This is who I am, or whatever, you know, all this other stuff. Being very courteous to him, because I understand he doesn't know me. I'm stepping into a holy place, you know. So, and usually people who are already there already know each other. So I have to be very humble. I say, oh, okay, I'm sorry, but this is what I was given. So basically the guy gave me schematics about where I should put my camera and where he expects the video to look like, because he's going to be editing it, not me. So I come up to him and I say, hey, well, these are the schematics that the guy gave me. He came to the rehearsal. We thought that, you know, this was agreed upon prior to me getting here. The pastor says, oh, well, first off, nobody really came to the rehearsal. We might have seen one person, but we didn't know who that was. We don't know who you are. And we're not really sure about where they stood, this kind of stuff. And I'm sitting here like, okay, sir, well, what do you want? I don't mind shooting wherever you want. He said the camera in the back over the what's the thing that they go over the candles, you know, where in the front getting a full view of the church. That one's fine. The close-up camera is in the fire lane, and with church comes older people. Older people need as much space and as much fire lane and as much code as you possibly can have. I am not upset that he's telling me this. I am upset at the fact that I traveled almost 2 hours to be here 2 hours early. So 4 hours of just travel time and preparation, and it's kind of like, yeah, okay, I'll do whatever you ask me to. So I end up doing exactly what he tells me to, moving it in a way that is comfortable for him. He's the pastor, the shepherd of his flock. I don't want to make him upset. So I move the camera, the camera, everything over there. All right, so this is okay. But the reason it's not perfect is because the closer you get to the pews, the more likely you are to get a head standing in your shot. The more likely you are to pick up audio, because I did have a separate audio track, but I want as much clean audio as I possibly can get, because you never know when you're going to have to dub and fade. And I just wanted to give him the best opportunity to get a good recording. Man. And then people start blocking the shot. Babies were in the shot. Oh, it was a train wreck. And that was just at the church. So let's fast forward to the actual reception. We go to another location. The reception is good. It's looking nice. I'm taking B-roll shots with my 80D. I got 2 Sony camcorders that's recording the whole event, so it doesn't run out of battery power or whatever. I get to the reception. I do the reception. I do interviews at the reception so they can use it as B-roll. And then, like we're really going in trying to make sure they have everything for a small budget wedding. I say, okay. I confirm with the bride and groom. I said, hey guys, I'm your videographer. I know I didn't get a chance to talk to you guys, but you had a beautiful event, a beautiful wedding, everything like that. I had been at the reception for about 2 hours at this point. People have gotten up and spoken and stuff like that. I've done interviews, and I'm about ready to leave at this point, because the guy who I was working for told me that I didn't have to video the dance or any of the other stuff. I did video the cake cutting, but after the cake cutting, I thought everything was all gravy. I was good to go. Now, at this point, I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that this is an awesome wedding for these guys. This is an awesome wedding for these guys. I'm like saying hey to everybody, encouraging people to do the interview, even if they don't want to. I say, hey, I don't necessarily have to have your face. Just see if you can put a word in or two in the microphone and we can dub it over the track. Anything. Let's go. Let's be excited. Going to each and every table, seeing if anybody wants to do an interview. Just like I go to each and every table when I'm doing photography and seeing if anybody wants pictures before they eat with a friend buddied up like this. This is standard for me. I always do these kinds of things, just trying to make them feel good. If anybody says, hey, I want to take a picture outside or take a video outside, do whatever, take B-roll. I took B-roll of the photographer taking pictures of them outside, and I'm primarily a photographer. So these things are all put into this wedding. Nevertheless, I was there for, I would say, the time from me leaving my house to going to the wedding, coming back to my house, had to have been about 11 hours. So I do all of that. It's great. They enjoyed me. They didn't hate me or anything like that. But there was at one point in time where the groom said, hey, I just want you to come and film one more thing for me, and then you're good to go. And then I just left. I was good, but people wanted my phone number. They wanted me, even though I was a state away, I was in another state. They wanted my number. I did a great job. All right. So fast forward. Now I'm relinquishing the footage to the guy who got me the job, the guy that's editing. I meet him in my state. I meet him and I tell him, all right, I didn't really think about, and you see the jump in my voice, I didn't really think about how he was going to extract the footage. I never really thought about that. I used 2 or 3 SD cards, right? But all of them were like high-speed 64 gig cards. I remember this. This had to be like 3 or 4 years ago maybe. And we were in a store. He invited me out to eat. He paid for my food, and he paid me the money that he owed me. At that point, I was good. Up until the point he asked me for my SD cards. And I'm like, why do you need my SD card? He has his laptop. To his credit, he has his laptop with him at the time. And I said, he says, I need your SD cards to just dump them off. I was like, oh, okay. You sure you don't want me to Google Drive view this stuff? And he just reviewed my footage to make sure. It was just a good faith payment, right? I just wanted him to review my footage for me. Now, I don't know him personally. I know him through another friend who I do know personally, who I can vouch for. And he wanted to get me some more money. He wanted to make sure that because he thought I was a good videographer. And he says, the guy who I, associated with, Mr. Video Guy, that's what we're just going to call him. Mr. Video Guy comes to me and says, oh, you did a great job. I can already see you got some shadows up the field with the ADD, good colors, good composition. You even gave me slates to make sure that my and white balance cards to make sure my white balances was right and know what the takes were, because when I'm splicing two cameras together, I need to know all that stuff. It was a great opportunity. And then he goes to ask me for my SD cards, and he says, well, I need them. He has his laptop with him. I need them to dump stuff straight into the editor. I'm like, you can't put it straight to like a hard drive or an SSD, something that's really, really fast, because if you start to put them into, you know, Final Cut, straight from Final Cut might take a little bit more time to import than to just putting it onto a straight hard drive. He said, no, this is the best way I can do it. I said, okay, all right. Is there any way that you're going to be able to give me my SD cards back? Because it doesn't look like this is going to be done by the time we in here. And I know this as a videographer because I've been doing this for years. And he says, oh, well, maybe, yes. And I don't think he understood that I was using camcorders. For those of you who don't know what camcorders do to the video, camcorders have really small sensors. They're not like these big uncompressed sensors. They're really compressed sensors, or really small sensors with compressed files. To uncompress those files, like from a GoPro, it's just like a GoPro. Uncompressing those files are murder for anybody's computer. And he had like a MacBook Pro, so he must have not have foreseen that, but he didn't mention that. And I don't think he put enough effort into learning that. He didn't learn about the camera, how long it was going to take. I always thought we were going to do a Dropbox thing. The only thing that I wanted to do was show him the footage, show that I had the footage. Either he paid me half there, and then fully when he gets the footage through maybe Cash App, whatever we had back then. But it's just like, he wants my SD cards. I'm like, okay, no, I need SD cards for other things, blah, blah, blah. He said, oh, don't worry, I'll just mail them back to you. Well, now I'm in a conundrum because I have footage that he asked me for. He's on the ball for sending them the video, and I gave my contacts to all these people at the church to contact me anytime they need me. And, you know, videographers and photographers, it's all about word of mouth for us. So I'm in a conundrum, and I had 2 SD cards at home and a CF card that I could use for my 7D. And I said, okay, just go ahead and take the SD cards. To this day, I have not seen those 2 SD cards. I think it was 2 SD cards. I have not seen those 2 SD cards. He was only able to get 1 SD card, and I had 3 SD cards I shot with that day to actually work out for him. It's been like 4 years, and that's over $100, $200. He only paid me but so much to do a secondary job with no editing. But at the end of the day, guys, these are the wedding horror stories that we always talk about. Now, I'm lucky that I didn't lose any footage and it didn't become worse for me, but at the end of the day, we still have to protect our own backs. We got to understand that there's a lot of stress involved in this whole situation. Not only the bride, but the groom, anybody who's working for it. A lot of money involved. A lot of people wanting to sue you. A lot of people willing to sue you for one of the most important days of their lives. And so when you think of a photographer or a videographer's job when getting out into the field, and you think it's nothing, or you think, oh, they're just pointing the camera and shooting, the camera's already good enough and it's gonna do everything for you, or they're not doing a lot and they don't deserve the amount of money that they ask for, unless they're asking you for tens of thousands of dollars, and that might be even warranted in certain situations, you need to take them up on the fact that this is a hard job and they need to be respected. I'm done with CFX Studios. I know this is a long story, but I wanted to get all that out and just basically respond to Vanessa Joy. I'll be thankful if she watches this video, but I tend to be long-winded, tend to be very thorough, tend to be not what YouTube's algorithm and YouTube's viewership wants to see, but it is my channel, and I just wanted to really put everything out there. Stay tuned for the next video, guys.